Maybe we should introduce
I
ourselves.
think that'd be a wonderful idea, Mick. You want to go first?
No, but I will. I'm Mick
Okay.
Alexander. I am a full-time caregiver to my parents who are 90 and 87 years old. They have been with me now 11 years, and I'm also the president and founder of Image Wealth Management, a people development business.
Love it.
Awesome.
Love it.
Awesome. I'm Dr. LaKoya. I am a primary caregiver as well for my two parents. I have a 71-year-old mother who is in stage renal disease on dialysis. And then I have a 73-year-old father who has end stage Parkinson's disease. So I am a primary caregiver for them. And I am also the founder and owner of Growing Through It, LLC. I help organizations develop better leaders and create healthier workplace cultures so that their leaders feel supported and their team members want to stay. And I'll kick it over to Ariane.
I am Ariane Slayton. I am not the primary care, but I'm definitely a support person for my parents. They're both in their 70s, mid 70s. They are aging gracefully, dealing with some health issues, strokes and hearing loss, but they're still pretty active. They still utilize their Costco time. Um, but I am dealing with them in the home, as well as I have four children moving through the stages of elementary school through the Air Force and college. So I got the gamut of lifestyles around me, managing it. And I am a full-time realtor in North and South Carolina. So I work with mostly an aging population, mature individuals who have purchased a house that may not fit them anymore, that they need to upgrade or downsize, depending on if they're trying to live with their family or not.
Well, last time, LaKoya and I had a great conversation around medications and making sure that we understand what our parents are taking or our loved ones that we're caring for, and that all the doctors are communicating, which is sometimes a big challenge when you're juggling so many balls. And in my case, I don't have a medical background, so LaKoya is fortunate enough to have that pharmaceutical background. And so she can really be of some help to us when we're trying to figure that out, because the more I talk to people who are in our situation, the more I realize that that is a very real problem. Doctors not talking to doctors, people aging, and I hate to say it, but sometimes doctors don't really care about senior citizens. That's why it's important to find someone who really does specialize in that level of care. And so we had a fantastic conversation. And I just want to urge everybody who's listening to us to go back and look at that if you haven't seen that. But we're very excited to have you, Ariane, on the call, as you were not on the last call, and we missed you. And we kind of want to talk about real estate and living conditions and all the things that go along with finding the proper housing, whether they're with you or they're with someone else. So with that, let's get into it.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So all three of us have unique living situations that fit our specific parents' lifestyles. We are the sandwich generation. So we have younger on one side, we have parents on another, and we can't forget ourselves. We need to make sure that we maintain and take care of ourselves as well. So, but thinking about housing when it pertains to our parents, Mick, how did you find the house that you guys that works for you?
Okay, so let me just clarify one thing. I don't think I'm in the sandwich generation.
Okay.
I'm like,
That's
yeah,
fine.
I'm like right outside in the crust generation. Okay, and so, but when we decided, we were in another home, and that home I had by myself for a number of years, and I had created a basement apartment and was mainly renting that apartment to university students, PhD students, at the local university. And when my parents came to live with me, I gave them the main house and moved down into the apartment. So for 5 years, I lived in the basement of my home. And after 5 years, I was like, wait a minute, something's not working for me. So we started to look for something that was a little more accommodating for me as well as for them. Everybody had something on their list that they wanted, whether that was a screened in porch, a front porch. Someone had a fireplace, and we wanted a backyard for the dog. So I believe in, before I get with the realtor, getting in my car and finding the area that feels good to me. So I'm not wasting your time, right? So
Absolutely.
that's what we did. And we literally looked at almost 100 homes before we actually found something that we were interested in, because it was hard to find something without stairs.
Okay.
And we ultimately ended up with stairs. And I now have moved from the basement to the attic of my house. So I live upstairs on the second floor, and I've given them the main home. And but I am aging also, and now those stairs are getting to I'm feeling it. But I just tell myself it's exercise. So if I don't make it to the gym that day, I'm like, well, I did at least do the stairs a couple of times. So that's how we found our home. But it was real important that everybody had a say in what they were looking for before we went out there and started looking.
And let me ask you, what does privacy look like for you guys?
LaCoya, I'm gonna let you take that one because you have a little different situation.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the privacy looks great for me and great on me because my parents are in their own home, but we didn't start out that way. I actually moved back to North Carolina in 2016 from California. And at that point, me and my parents were living in two different cities. I knew that we were going to eventually get here where they were going to need more support. It's actually a reason why I moved back from California, partly. So, with that being said, I moved them in to live with me in a house that had a first floor master. And, my daughter and I have an 18-year-old daughter as well. My daughter and I actually had the whole second floor to ourselves, and then they had the first floor master. And we leased that home for 2 years because I was new in the city. But like you, Mick, I leased it for 2 years because I wanted to find, okay, where do I want to land for my next home? And it was always the idea that I wanted my parents to be as independent as they could be for as long as they could be, for those same reasons of privacy. Like, I wanted to live my life, I wanted them to live their life, but have the support that they needed. And so after the 2 years, or a little bit before the 2 years was over, I found a development. I rode into the development, loved it from the time I walked in, like just rode in there. I was like, this is it. And they were building houses. And so I got in at the best time before the market turned, before COVID, 2018. I found the property, put money down on it, and I had the house built from the ground up. Now, the developers had multiple floor plans. I loved the model home. The model home had this second floor master, and it had this little kind of like, I guess, kind of like a living room, little quarters that was right off the masters, and it had a balcony. So it was like ideal for what I would have wanted, right? But I'm always thinking a long range, like what's going to happen if I have to move my parents in with me? And during this process, during the same time, they were looking for a house too, because my lease was ending. You need your house and I need mine. So we sold their house in the other city and used that so that they could get their own house. And they were able to find, at that time in 2018, a ranch style home that didn't have stairs. And it was very economical in a different county than where I was building my house.
Okay.
But I chose a floor plan that had mostly first floor living. So it has a master suite on the bottom floor, and then it has 2 bedrooms and another full bathroom. And so me and my daughter mostly live on that first floor, and then on the second floor is another kind of like guest suite. It's like a 1 bedroom apartment. It has a bedroom that's bigger than the master, another full bathroom, and then like a living room kind of loft space. And I did that purposefully just in case my parents need to move in with me. They can have the first floor master and I can move upstairs, right? So
Yeah.
that was that foreknowledge, that forethinking. I'm hoping we don't get there. I hope that they can age gracefully in their own home and I can continue having the privacy that I have and I enjoy right now. But in the case something changes, I'm already invested so that I have the preparation that I need for them to transition into my home seamlessly and I don't have to go looking for something else.
That's good.
So to answer your question too about the privacy, that is still a very big issue for us.
Mhm.
My parents and I are very close. We have a very unique situation in that we owned a business together and worked together for over 14 years. So we had that situation. And when they retired, they moved away for 10 years, but then moved back and moved in with me and have been here ever since. So it has been very difficult for me on a personal level to find my privacy.
Right.
I do not feel that I have privacy, total privacy. I am single. So this idea of dating or bringing a man, and I'm a mature woman, right? So, I mean, I should be able to do that. But once a child, seems like you're always a child. I'm not comfortable with bringing a gentleman caller to the house where my parents are. I'm just not. So I have made a lot of personal sacrifices, even though our living spaces are somewhat separate.
Right.
I still don't have the type of privacy I would like. I am very much for duplexes, and they are just very hard to find, and now extremely expensive. But if I had to do it over again and I were financially able, that is the way I would go. I want them near me because I'm
Right.
used to that, but I want separation for entrances and music and whatever else that I want to do.
And that's why I asked that question, so that our viewers would have that in mind. Because when you're dealing with your parents, there is a dynamic child adult, child parent relationship that you have to think about. When my parents and I were looking, my parents were already, I had already sold their home and they were downsizing. And we were not necessarily looking for another home. We were happy and content in our house that we had. We had 4 children. It was big enough. It worked for us. We have a dog. That's the other thing. My mother is definitely afraid of dogs. So
Wow.
us together was, we didn't really think it was going to work. But my husband and I said, maybe we can find a home that we can kind of mutilate and change it, to fit our specific needs. Like I said, my parents are still very active, so they drive themselves. They want to go to Costco. When they want to go to Costco, Costco's very important. Um, the things that they want to do, they want to do it. So I always knew that living in the same house with just a separate bedroom wouldn't work for them. My mom wants to cook what she wants to cook. She may not want to eat chicken for 3 months. Don't cook chicken. She doesn't want chicken. But so she needs her own separate, place to cook. So we intentionally we were looking for a house that we could modify, but we happened to find one that had completely separate everything. So it was completely separate kitchen, completely separate driveway, entrances, every part of it,
Wow.
Wow.
except for there's a stairway that they can go up and down. Everybody can traverse the stairway, but it has a riding chair because my dad had a stroke. So the stairs have gotten to be, too much for him. But the
Yeah.
chair was there. So this house really fit our needs. And so we jumped on it. It was, immediately something that, we knew would work. But again, you have to think about that privacy factor because, I mean, in the beginning, and a lot of people do have their parents in a separate room right down the hall, and it works, and you do what you have to do.
Mhm.
But sometimes the parents may want, it may not even be you. It may be them that want. My parents definitely do, they don't want to be where they're a burden to anybody or where they can't do what they want to do, go out. My mom likes to go out to church whenever she's ready. So, we had to think about that. And when we were thinking of mutilating or changing up, cutting up a house and, separating it, that's what we were thinking of. How can we have 2 separate entrances? How can we have driveways where they can hit all their Amazon deliveries and, all of that kind of stuff? That's a big factor that people need to keep in mind is just, space. Because if you're used to living alone or having your own separate, that's a biggie.
Yeah.
You brought up something really important. I think you have experienced somewhat of a miracle, right? Because you found a home already ready to fit your needs, and it has to be in a place you want to live too,
Right.
right? And you have children and school to consider and all that. So you were able to find all of that. I imagine being a realtor helped you to do that. But still, even with that, that's really a miracle to have all of those boxes checked.
Absolutely. And something that you can afford because there are many multi-generational houses and they are pretty pricey. I won't say that our house was, we paid for this miracle. You know, it was within our budget, but definitely we had to make sure that this is what everybody wanted to do. No pressure. That's the other thing too. Like you said, everybody had a checkbox, and so if it didn't fit somebody, you don't want any resentment. Like my husband or my father, or two men under one roof, or two.
Right.
It has everybody. It has to work for everybody.
Yes.
So yeah, you're right. It's a tough situation, but it can work. But some like how Dr. LaKoya's situation, there are housing for their apartments for older, older people, mature people, housing. There's rental apartments, and they have all kind of activities. Some are ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
Where you're putting down a ton and still paying a ton, but they have activities, they have hairdressers, they have meals, they have all kind of classes. It's like a lifestyle. So if that people are looking for, where they come in and the therapists come into their apartment, take care of them. So that might be an option for some people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can tell you that was not an option for us. My brother and I, again, we knew we were going to get here at some point. And so I think it's one of the things that I want our viewers to recognize is, when do you need to start thinking about this? Like, how do you know you're going to get to this point at some time? And for us, we already knew some of the health concerns that my parents had. And we also, because I am in healthcare, I knew the trajectory of that, right? And so I started thinking about that ahead of time. And so before I even moved home from California, I had my brother take my parents around to some of those communities that you're talking about, Ariane. And at the time, it was like, I think it was like $4,000 per person per month. So we were looking at $8,000. And this was 2015.
Yeah.
2015 prices. And some of those communities that you're talking about, like, it might be $8,000 per month, but there's like a $50,000 to $100,000 deposit that you have to put down, and then it's $8,000 per month, right? And let's just be for real. A lot of people that look like us can't afford that type of living and investment for our parents.
Right.
I can't even afford that for myself right now. And
Right.
honestly, when you talk about some of those type of environments, those facilities, some of them are getting like 5-star meals, right? And I'm like, how can I invest in that now? Like, I know how I want to live later. How can I invest in that now? But the fact of the matter is, like, most of us may not be able to afford that type of living and that type of lifestyle for our parents. So can, I guess Mick and you, Ariane, can you talk about, like, why it was important for your parents to come and live with you? And then I know, Mick, yours was a little different. They moved back from somewhere, moved in with you. I don't know if that was the plan all along, that they stayed with you the entire time, but can you talk through that journey of why they moved in with you in the beginning? And then, then you got a house and was kind of like, okay, this is going to be my life. This is what I have decided to do. And then for you, Ariane, you mentioned multi-generational housing, which is something that I don't think I've never actually really heard that term, but it makes complete sense. But you said there are a lot of options for that, and kind of talk about, what do those prices look like for a multi-generation house? Because I think people need to have that concept of what do the numbers look like?
Absolutely. It's not cheap. I'll just put that out there. But go ahead, Mick. We'll listen to you.
I was going to say, go ahead first,
Okay.
and I'll follow up with my little crazy story.
Okay. So it's very hard for me to give a number about multi-generational houses, but there are, just like there are builders out here who, like Ryan Homes or D.R. Horton, and it's not very prevalent in Charlotte because you need space, but they are building homes that have a mother-in-law suite, or there could be a tiny portion in the backyard that has a completely separate housing, that your family, mother and father, can live in, and they can have self-sufficiency. They can cook for themselves, but you're still right there in case they need you. You can be hands-on. And the one thing I can't say, because it's a blanket statement for all housing, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. So, you're not going to find that in the 3s or 4s. You're going to start somewhere in the 700s. Just because it's like 2 separate houses that are coming together, with the ease of being close. And it really depends. And it's not, like I said, it's not going to be in Charlotte proper majority of the time. And I know, Dr. LaKoya, you're not even in Charlotte, but That's where I'm, I predominantly am. But you need space essentially. So think outskirts, some other cities that have more land, they'll be utilizing it. But if you look up multi-generational housing, it's definitely out there. Different manners, like you said, a duplex, that would be something that where it has two units on one property, and you can just, sometimes people build a door in between, or you can just walk out on the porch, walk around, and go to the other side. My dad had a stroke, and that's how we all decided, we'll do this. I mean, just to be, we never like to think about the end, but he's 75. It's not going to be another 50 years for him. And so, I mean, it could, but the likelihood is that it probably won't, but I'm not God. I appreciate every year that he's here. But we said for, the remaining terms, it really, I think a lot of people don't, think that you can go back and live with your parents after you've already done it. A lot of people that look like us say at 18, you're out, that's it, you're done. But right. It has proven to be a blessing to have my children, keeping my parents young and keeping them busy and picking them up from school, or, hey, he's coming home early, he has a stomach ache, can you sit with him? They love it. They love to cook. They love to do everything. And like I said before, my mom, who was deathly afraid of dogs, she has really, that, like, it's amazing, in her 75 years. Now, she is not a dog lover, but that fear of dogs is definitely dissipated. She's become a lot more okay with them being around. And I think that's important. That's huge, because I never would have thought she would even be able to be in the same room with a dog without, passing out. So it's good for both sides.
That's awesome.
Yeah, when my father moved in with me, my father didn't like dogs, and I had a little Wesley. He's since transitioned, but my father was like, "Oh, you're gonna have to get rid of the dog." I was like, "Oh no, now we have a major problem because this is his house. He was here first." So as it turned out over the years, which, like I said, has been 11 years, and Wesley just passed away a few weeks ago, that became my father's buddy. I mean, we were in awe. And so, like you said, I see that as growth. I see that as a true blessing, because he got to experience something that he never experienced in his childhood. And it really opened him up to animals. And now he wants to watch animal videos on YouTube and things like that. So it really is a wonderful thing. As far as them living with us, my parents, when they retired from the business, I moved them to a place called the Villages, Florida. And if you haven't heard of the Villages, Florida, it is the largest retirement city in the world. When my parents moved there, they had 80,000 seniors over the age of 55. It's a 55 and older community. When they left, they had 120,000. So it is its own city with its own zip code. It has its own Lowe's and Belk and all of that. Completely self-sustaining. And it is a golf cart community. In fact, they had at that time about 34 golf courses there. Wow. So that gives you an idea of how big it is. And it has grown even more since then. I always like to encourage our people to go visit the villages, because when I went there, that's when I understood what retirement could really be. My vision of retirement was sitting on the porch in the rocking chair drinking some lemonade, and that just wasn't the case. So you asked what made them move with me, LaKoya. That was because they were going to doctor's appointments, and I was trying to keep up with what was happening. And every time I talked to them, there were two different stories of what the doctor said. And at first, I just thought it was kind of cute, right? And funny. But then I realized, no, I mean, when it came to taking medications and what follow-up procedures and stuff, they had completely different views of what the doctor had said. So I realized at that point that either I needed to move closer to them or they needed to move closer to me. And that's what made them. We eventually, because I was submerged in the Charlotte community and business, I really didn't want to start over in business. That is why they ended up living with me. That said, I am an emotional intelligence expert, right? That is what I do. I teach emotional intelligence for a living. And I got to tell you, if I didn't have those tools, this would probably be a very different journey for me. because our family, first of all, we're very excited family. We're very animated. You see me moving my hands and we talk loud and all of that, right? So we can get rather heated and very passionate about our beliefs. And when you are the child, like I said, it sounds crazy in my 60s to say I'm the child, but I will always be their child. And that is exactly how they see it, even though I am no longer a child. And so I have had to call upon the training to be emotionally intelligent about when do I put my foot down and stand up for myself and help them remember that I am not a child, their child, but not a child. And when do I take a back seat and acquiesce and be respectful and show some grace and, all of those things. So we're going to have another video about that
Yes.
because that's real. But when they came to live with me, then I realized that um, it was going to be a blessing and a burden. And it has been. It's a blessing to be able to watch your parents age because one, it gives you an opportunity to see how you might be when you age. So if it's something you don't like, you can start working on it right now, right? But the other thing I wanted to say about the real estate and looking for a space is thinking ahead about caregiving in addition to what you're doing, because I am not a professional caregiver. I am blessed, like you guys, that my parents are still at age 87 and 90. They are going to Sam's, not Costco. They drive themselves to their doctor's appointment. My father is 90 and still driving. And I test this on a regular basis, and he's a good driver. But I do realize that there will come a time when I probably am going to have to get professional help and services to come in. Does that mean they're going to live with us? So we have an extra bedroom and an extra space just in case that happens. We have equipment like a bed that raises up and down just in case that happens. So I feel like I've done some preparation, not nearly enough, but thinking forward that if I'm blessed and they live another 5 to 10 years, but their body isn't as strong as it used to be, how will I accommodate in my home this person coming in and out to help?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, listen, ladies, we are about at time. Oh my gosh, there were so many nuggets that you dropped right there, Mick. So many more conversations that I believe we can have, that emotional journey that we all have to take in caring for our parents. But also one of the things that you brought up was technology and how different technology we are utilizing to in that caregiving journey. I can't wait to have that conversation because
Yeah.
I will tell you, I definitely have some tools and resources in that realm that that helps us with our caregiving journey. For me and my brother, we can participate in caregiving and not be in the home, but still know what's going on. So I think that's definitely a conversation for us to have. But
Yeah.
I want to go ahead and start closing us out. Are there any final words that either one of you all want to leave our viewers with?
I want Ariane to tell our viewers how to get in touch with you if they need real estate help.
You can reach me. I'm a Coldwell banker in Fort Mill. You can reach me 704-999-6337. My contact information should be available somewhere on our slides, but I'm Ariane Slayton, licensed in North and South Carolina, but I can help you buy and sell throughout the country. I specialize, I'm a seniors real estate specialist, so I specialize in working with mature adults. So contact
Very
me.
good. And we'll put our information into how to contact us and what we do as well. But it's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure talking with you ladies. It's a highlight of my day.
Absolutely.
Likewise, likewise. And wherever you're watching this, always remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks so much. We are the Unexpected Caregivers. You all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You too. Great talking.